on my first trip up here, it was shocking to see this level of wild preserved this close to humans. The topography alone is amazing. I'm a mainlander of Nova Scotia, and we don't have hills like this. And when you get that much relief in topography, you see how powerful the river is, and then you see a salmon swimming up the river. It's crazy. How could you not fall in love with that? I started volunteer work for Trout Unlimited on the Musquodoboit River in the mainland, and that's basically where I started actual conservation work. And I think that's a common story with conservation, is there hasn't been a lot of money and jobs for it, so the people that are there definitely want to be there, and the only way to get experience is to volunteer. My name is Aaron Allen, and I am the coordinator for the Margaree Salmon Association. You know, it didn't really have to be fish for me. I spent some time working in some forestry stuff, but just outside in general is what I really wanted to be. And I fell in love with Margaree 6 or 7 years ago after my first salmon trip, and it was hard to leave. Yeah. I always feel like my love for the Margaree and this place has always been so deep, it's crazy. I feel like a silly person with how much I love this place. But I love learning more and more all the time. I always want to just take in every ounce of knowledge that I can about this place. Hopefully when I die, I'll be the person that knows it better than anyone, but there's so many people that know it way better than I do right now. So just as long as I keep learning, I'm gonna love it more and more all the time.
Fishermen have been coming here for a long time. Our hatchery's been here since 1902. Fishermen have been coming here long before 1902. First Nations people came here for generations upon generations to harvest salmon. After the First Nations people, immigrants, the Irish, the French, established something here, and quickly around the world it got identified as a salmon angling destination. In the early 1900s, people came here, camped out on the river, and went home, back then with a salmon. Today, through a lot of work by the volunteer groups, there is a catch and release only policy on this river, and I don't think that will ever change.
Well, my name is René Aucoin. In French, it's pronounced René Aucoin, and I am the president of the Cheticamp River Salmon Association. Very similar to a muddler minnow. So I grew up in a community, it's an Acadian community, and the mentality when I was growing up here is catch what you can and eat what you can, and laws didn't seem to matter very much. So I grew up in that environment. But we had people that come here to fish for salmon, and they would bring in a kind of a different culture. So my memory is of a person named Ed Yacko, and whenever he caught a salmon, he would retire that fly. And I thought, what a crazy thing, you know, for my community, people just didn't do that. If you got a salmon, bang, and if you get a fly that can catch salmon, well, the more the merrier. That kind of put the realization in me that there were people out there who were thinking about conserving fish. So the Shedikamp River is within Cape Breton Highlands National Park. So it's been kind of preserved that way. So there's been no industry and no farming on the edges of it for the last 70 years. We've been very fortunate in that sense. There's a choice to make between focusing your resources on rivers that are in dire straits or rivers that are still healthy. And it's always been, for me, in the back of my mind, because our association, like the others, we have to apply for funding. And it's been difficult for us for some years, but one must remember that if we don't do something today, 20 years down the road may be too late, and certainly that is what has happened in many places, where they just realized what was going on too late, started too late with the restorations, and now you're fighting almost a losing battle.
Gwe Nina Delwisi Kyle Denny, Lewi Eskisoni, Unamagi. When I first started fishing here in 2004 for Atlantic salmon, it was very hard for the Mi'kmaq people to be part of the rules and the regulations that they use. At the time, there was a lot of pointing fingers of the decline of the Atlantic salmon. I think the bridge was through communication. The Unama'ki Institute of Natural Resources, their concept is the two ICN. One is Indigenous knowledge, and the other is the Western science knowledge. And we can't work hand in hand without both. In English, you have an introduction, body, conclusion. It's very linear. First Nations, it's more of a circle. So it's shared a lot by storytelling. You're not going to get a straight answer from an elder. You have to sit down, listen to the story, and make that connection. Storytelling is a very helpful tool to get some knowledge and wisdom. And I find nowadays, everybody is respecting that. ASF, when they come, they acknowledge the territory of the Mi'kmaq people. They open up with a Mi'kmaq prayer. And that's how you embrace different cultures. More than ever before, it's united. But that process took years to build.
Whether you're in the US or Canada, we've had a very top-down approach to conservation that, some scientist or politician or, bureaucrat somewhere says, oh, this is how it has to be, and this is what that grant has to be, or this is the sort of restoration or conservation work that has to happen, that will permit to happen. And then there's a place for that. We need regulators to regulate and policymakers to make policy. But, there's a lot of knowledge here locally. And so we want to make sure we're bringing that in. That's another way of seeing. Local groups like the Marguerite Salmon Association and Shedikamp River Salmon Association here in Cape Breton leading the way and leading the charge, and they're making the decisions. They've got the local knowledge to bring in, they've got the passion, they've got the expertise on the river, so we want to make sure we're bringing that in. Have that local leadership, have that local knowledge, without a doubt have that Indigenous knowledge, and put all those ways of seeing and ways of knowing on equal footing. I think it's just absolutely essential. We know that you can't do conservation without people. You need people to be passionate and really care about it in order for conservation to resonate with politicians, to have those advocates.
I do think community plays a massive role. I started fishing shortly after my mom passed away, and I was a bit of a limbo for me in my life. And so when I met individuals that were so passionate about being outdoors, I felt like I was living not only for myself, but also for my mom who had gone. And really that community has become like a second family. We wouldn't be here today if it were not for these hard-working groups of volunteers that are currently established and doing excellent work. These watersheds are healthy because they've taken the initiative and because they let their passion and their drive for wild Atlantic salmon lead them. It's put us in the position to be able to come in and offer extra support to complement what they're already doing, and that's extremely exciting, and it's just the beginning.